Okay, so today's lesson, yesterday we talked about how to tell whether ratios were proportional. Today we are going to be given proportions and we're going to use the idea of cross products that we used yesterday to solve those proportions. So we'll talk about solving proportions using cross products. We'll also start talking a little bit about how to set up proportions from word problems and then solve using cross products. Okay, so I want to see you set up your problems this way. So your first step is when you're given a proportion, if you're doing a problem out of the textbook, you want to write down the proportion that was in the textbook. So I'm going to write here 2/9 equals 11 over x. So I have a proportion, but I don't know what one of the values is. Okay, then I want you to write down the cross products. So we have 2 times x and 9 times 11. The cross products are equal to each other. So you're going to write 2x, which means 2 times x, equals 9 times 11. Okay, then you're going to multiply the 9 times 11. So now we have 2x equals 9 times 11 is 99. Now we have a one-step equation. We're going to solve this equation by doing what? We have 2 times x equals 99. How do I solve? Good. Divide by 2. So 99 divided by 2 is 49.5. So x equals 49.5. Now, initially when you do this, I want you to show me your work. Minimally, I want to see this step. I want to see what your cross products equal and then your answer. So you would have your problem, what you did when you multiplied cross products, and your answer. Some of you, 7th period, we did a little shortcut on the calculators where we just multiplied the two numbers across and then divided this. But I do want you to show me your work to make sure you're understanding what we're doing. Because some of you had that class when we had not done one-step equations yet, so we didn't cover it that way. Okay, any questions about this? Okay, we're going to look at another example together, then you'll have some to try. Okay, so the proportion's already written for us on this example. So first step, we're going to write the cross products. 25 times x equals 15 times 38. Okay, now I'm going to multiply 15 times 38, and you can do that on your calculator. So my next step is just 25x equals 15 times 38 is 570. Okay, now I'm going to solve the one-step equation by dividing both sides by 25. And I end up with x equals 570 divided by 25 is 22.8. Okay, any questions before you try the next 3 examples? Here's what I want to see minimally. I would like to see, say you have something like, well, actually, let's do the first one on the you try together. I'll show you how you can take a little shortcut, but not completely. I want to at least see evidence that you used cross products. So 15x equals, you can multiply these numbers on your calculator and just write it down. You don't have to write 12 times 21. You could just write 252. And then you could just write x equals 16.8. So this is the minimal amount of work. Everyone should do at least this much. If you want to show the additional work just to keep it all straight in your head, you may.
Do you want, when we're multiplying the two numbers, do you want the smallest one get an answer to the calculator versus?
It doesn't matter. You can multiply either direction because of the commutative property. Okay, I'm going to pause this for a second while you guys try it. Okay, next one. Olivia, can you tell me how you would do this?
15x.
This one.
Okay. 30b.
Good. 30d.
16 times 51.
Okay, so 30d equals, what is 16 times 51?
860.
Good. What do you do now?
Divide them both by 30.
Good. So D equals,
27.2.
good. How many of you got 27.2? Good. Pretty much about unanimous. Good. All right, next one. Addison's not here. Caitlin.
20 equals 3,850.
Okay, so Caitlin did hers kind of the shortcut way, so she didn't write out the two multiplications, but she got the 3,850 by multiplying those two numbers.
Then divide each side by 20.
Okay,
Then you get the answer of 192.5.
good. 192.5. How many of you got that as an answer? Okay, okay, good. That one looks pretty good too. Okay, let's go on to our second objective. Writing proportions from word problems. An oyster bed covers 36 square meters. Your class studies 4 square meters of the oyster bed. In those 4 square meters, you count 96 oysters. Predict the number of oysters in the entire bed. So what you're doing here is you're comparing two things. You're setting up a ratio comparing two things. What two things in words would I be comparing? Brian?
I would say put like 36 over 4 and then 4 over 96.
Okay, what I want first you to tell me in words what two things you're comparing. We'll fill numbers in.
Meters of an oyster bed and how much an oyster bed covers.
How much what?
An oyster bed covers.
Okay, so how much it covers and what was the other thing?
How many meters the class studies.
Okay, how many meters the class studies. That's kind of, I see what you're saying there. That's going to be definitely two different sides of our proportion, but that's both kind of the same concept, which is the size of the oyster bed. So let's write that as our top thing, the size of the bed. What's the other thing that, what do we want to know? Mackenzie?
How many oysters?
How many oysters there are. So we want to know how many oysters. So those are the two things we're comparing. The size of the bed to how many oysters there are. Okay, so for the size of the bed, we have two numbers. It says that the oyster bed itself is 36 square meters. Your class studies 4 square meters. Okay, which number up there, or which, if we look at the 96 oysters, which one of those numbers does 96 oysters go to? Were the 96 oysters in the 4 square meters, or are they in the whole thing? Brian?
4.
They're in the 4. So the 96 and the 4 go together. So our first ratio is going to be the size is 4, so we're going to put that on top, and there are 96 oysters. On the other side, we're going to say the size of the oyster bed is 36, but we don't know how many oysters. So we're going to put an X on the bottom for the number of oysters. Okay, now we just solved the proportion using cross products. So we get 4x equals 96 times 36 is 3,456. That's a nice number, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, dividing both sides by 4, we get that x equals 864 oysters. Okay, make sure you have this written down, not just the answer as I see some of you have, but make sure you're writing down all of the equations as well. You have to know how to set up the equation, so write down the words, write down the numbers for the equation, and then write your answer. Okay, it's not just about getting the answer, it's about knowing how to set it up. Okay, let's take a look at the next example. You buy a bag of 400 marbles. In a handful of 20 marbles, you find 8 red marbles. About how many red marbles are in the bag? So what two things are we going to be comparing for our ratio here? Hillary? Okay, but what's different about the 20 marbles, 400 marbles? We need in words, like what two separate things are we looking at?
The bag of marbles and a handful of marbles.
Okay, so there's a bag and a handful. What else do we have mentioned in here? Mackenzie?
8 red marbles.
Okay, there's 8 red marbles. So we have red marbles and what's the other thing? How many are in the bag, Brian?
How many are in the bag of 400 marbles?
Okay, so we've got the bag of 400 marbles. That's kind of like mixed marbles, right, Hannah?
I have a handful of 20
Okay, so out of a handful of 20, there's 8 red. So you're putting those two together, the handful of 20 and the red. In the handful, are they all red? No. So we have marbles in general, like total marbles, to red marbles. I'm going to put the red on top. So I'm going to use red marbles to total marbles. Okay, so Hannah already put these two numbers together. The 8 red marbles are in the handful of 20. So I'm going to start with, for red, 8, for total, 20. Where am I going to put the 400? Is it going to go on the top or the bottom? Is the 400 talking about red marbles or total marbles? Hannah, what do you think?
What's that again?
Is the 400 referring to red marbles or total marbles?
The red one. I can't hear you. Sammy was talking.
Well, it says you buy a bag of 400 marbles. Are all the marbles in that bag probably going to be red?
No.
No. Spencer, where am I going to put that 400?
Total.
For total. Good. So 400 is total. What I want to know is how many red marbles are in the bag that I got. So I don't know how many red ones. That's going to be my X.
I have the 400 on top of it.
If you wrote this as total over red, you could do 20 over 8 equals 400 over X, but the things have to be in the same position. That's why it's good to write your ratio in words first, so you can keep track of what's on the top, what's on the bottom. So we end up with 20X. This is easy to do in your head. 400 times 8, you just do 8 times 4, which is 32, and add 2 zeros. Dividing both sides by 20, we have X equals 160. And the label for that would be red marbles. We found that there are 160 red marbles in the bag. Okay. There are 2 problems that I want you to attempt to complete on your own on the next page. I'll leave this up here for a second so that you can continue to look at these examples. So you're going to write a ratio in words, decide what 2 things you're comparing, and then fill in the numbers. Okay, I'm seeing a few problems with this. A lot of you are not following the directions about putting it in words first. That will really help you. Johnny, what 2 things in words are we comparing? No numbers, just words. What are we comparing? Donuts to cost. There we go. That is the first step, guys. Write what 2 things you are comparing.
and I put cost of donuts.
Okay, if you put cost to donuts, that's okay. It'll work. As long as in both ratios, your cost is on top, your donuts are on the bottom, you're going to get the same answer. Okay, so I can show you the other way too. So we'll start with donuts to cost. So, Hannah, if we look at our first number, 5 donuts, does that go with a cost up there? Does it tell us the cost for 5 donuts? Okay, so our first ratio, we're going to put donuts on the top. There's 5 donuts, and they cost $3.85. So we're going to put that on the bottom. In the second ratio, we still have to have the number of donuts on top. So it's asking us what is the cost of 2 donuts, so the number 2 should go on top. We don't know how much they cost. That's what we're finding out. So our cost for this ratio is X. If you did it like Mackenzie did, she did cost on top, donuts on the bottom. And it's okay to do it that way. She would have put 385 over 5 equals X over 2.
That's what I did. I didn't do that.
I did that way.
I did that way.
What did you do,
I
Mackenzie?
did 2 over X, but I did the first one.
Yeah, I did 2 over X.
So you did 385 over 5 and then 2 over X. So you combined cost over donuts and donuts over cost. That you cannot do. Both sides of your ratio have to be the same. So it doesn't matter which ratio you use. You can use this or this. But on this, the tops both have to be cost, bottoms both have to be donuts. The one on the left, the tops both have to be donuts, the bottoms both have to be cost. Okay, so when we multiply this through, we're going to get the same answer regardless of which ratio we use. We have 5x equals 770. So X equals $1.
Yeah, money and time.
54. Guys, you need to be focused up here. You guys are all over the place all of a sudden. Okay, questions about that? Okay, let's look at the next one. Halen, tell me in words, no numbers, just in words, what two things are we comparing?
Miles and hours.
Miles and hours. So we could put either number on top. Since he said miles first, I'm going to put miles, hours. Okay, if we look at our word problem, Jace, our first number is 4.5 hours. Do we know how many miles we can drive in 4.5 hours?
Yes.
How many?
7. 225.
225, okay. All right.
7.
What were you, where did 7 come from?
I'm just like, I'm not.
Never listen to your classmates. Okay, so which number, Jace, which number do you want to put on top?
I got you. Yes,
We will put 225 on top.
Good. 225 is for miles, so we're going to put that on top. We're going to put the 4.5 hours on the bottom. Okay, now it asks us how long it's going to take to drive 600 miles. Brian, where am I going to put that 600? Is it going to go on the top or the bottom?
Top.
Top, good. 600 miles on top, X hours on the bottom. Okay, cross multiplying, we have 225X.
I did it the other way.
Equals 2,700. Dividing both sides by 225. We get X equals 12 hours. Okay, I don't feel like you guys are quite ready to handle all the word problems on your own, so we're not going to do any word problems for homework. What we're going to do is I have an exit ticket that you are going to turn in for solving proportions. And then you have a worksheet. You do not have to do the word problems that are on the worksheet. So, no word problems. If you want to try them, you can, but we'll be starting class with those next time.
At least I saved